Good day, Alberta. Rise and shine. This is your midday report with Jason LaFace of Alberta Radio, January 3rd, 2026. And we are bringing you the headlines and stories that shape our great province. So grab your coffee, and we got a packed little update for you right now, from sovereignty dreams to flooded streets to everything in between. Let's jump in. So kicking things off with a bang, the Alberta Prosperity Project has been approved by Elections Alberta to move forward and collect physical signatures for the petition to get their question on the ballot, and that is, should Alberta remain part of Canada or become its own sovereign state or independent state? I agree with the Alberta Prosperity Project that we should be doing this. Now, for Alberta Radio, we are endorsing the Alberta Prosperity Project 100% to move forward and collect these signatures, and we will assist if we can, in any way we can, to make sure that we can get those signatures done and we can become an independent Alberta. Now, with that said, we have the Alberta Next panel, which is looking at a united Canada, an Alberta within a united Canada, and I just want to emphasize why that won't work. Because the federal government will always have a say, and it's time that all the provinces think about what is best for their own interest and their own people and move forward. And the only way to do that is to leave the Confederacy. The federal government has continuously failed in its obligation to manage itself or police itself, for that matter, which brings me to another point, that the RCMP in Alberta are on their way out. Now, we're hearing a lot of rhetoric online and seeing a lot of rhetoric by the left and those who support the RCMP, but I will say this: what has the RCMP done for Albertans in the last 3 decades? Absolutely nothing. Right now we have cases that have been just closed, not investigated, where private investigators have found culprits, and this is just the lack of services and actually due diligence by members of the RCMP. Now, it's important that we recognize other provinces who do have a provincial police body, like Ontario. They have the Ontario Provincial Police. Now, they only have limited powers because of how they're dictated within the municipalities. But again, the RCMP detachments throughout Ontario have shut down. So this is something that's really not new within the collective of Canada. Now, in Alberta, I believe that if we have an Alberta Sheriffs, we might be able to, I actually believe we will be able to have a better police structure and basically have them adhere to public safety concerns. So I support Alberta Sheriffs moving forward, and in hopes that they do a 100% better job than the RCMP. And I would also just suggest to the Alberta Sheriffs that if a member of the RCMP applies as an Alberta Sheriff, that application should be denied. We should not allow federal agents into a provincial body that will soon become an independent country. That's my opinion on that. Now, also, let's talk about something that's really close to the hearts of parents right now, and that's independent education. Now, there's a lot of families throughout Alberta that depend on independent private education because the public school board system has failed in their duties to make sure that kids are having a great education. I mean, right now there's so much strain on the public education where there's so many classroom complexities. There are some classrooms that are overcrowded, and this is a result of federal policies with immigration that is just flooding the provinces right across the country. And you have too many kids in classrooms, you have huge language barriers, and anything that's presented by teachers for a solution is turned down by the Alberta Teachers Association. Now, moving forward, we would like to present an idea to the collective of Alberta and to the parents, and this is simple. For far too long, the public sector unions, which is a non-for-profit organization who acts like an extortionist, advocates, or basically protesters is what I call it, they like to hijack the system. And their usual rhetoric is saying they need more money to give our kids a better education. Well, how many strikes have been going on throughout the country where education has not been a priority, but the money has? Now, in terms of the Alberta Teachers Association, there's so many issues going on there. There's so many issues going on through the public school board, but yet they have a petition that is by members of the ATA to shut down funding for the private and independent school systems. Now, why is it important to have private and independent funding? Well, first of all, special needs. people with disabilities, people with mental development issues, people that are higher learning that can't get the education from the public school board system. I was one of them. I skipped 2 grades of school and relied on the independent public sector of education on top of the public sector. So it was a mix of both. And that worked in Ontario. That's what we had there. Now, I'd like to see that here in Alberta because people like me, we want a better education. But the problem is the public school board system follows a curriculum. And that curriculum is paced and it's based on their teaching manuals and it's structured on a timeline. However, people like myself who are a little bit smarter, we get bored in class. So we either fall asleep, skip school, or we actually go and find out and snoop through the teacher's guides to get us ahead so that we can excel. But at some point, we have to address the public school board system because they have turned into basically a body of activism. They're never happy. And if you look at the dynamics of who's behind the ATA and what minority groups are pushing, well, Egal Canada has been pushing a curriculum of diversity, equality, and inclusion by putting pornography, books that are considered pornography in schools and public libraries. We've had the gender ideology confusion that's been pushed onto our kids, and basically sexualizing our children with actions of adults, what they do in their bedrooms, and trying to push that onto the kids in schools. This is complete nonsense, but I will say this. It's been addressed. Things have been put in place by the Premier and our government to make sure that this stops, and we're taking a common sense approach of logic for our children and to protect the best interest of our kids with education. Now, lastly, I just want to say this. Our country right now is just going through a mess. And when it comes to the APP and the petition, we're seeing other provinces now moving forward with potential referendums. Saskatchewan just approved theirs. They're going to move forward and get a petition going so that they can call a referendum. Quebec's on their way out. Newfoundland's talking about this. So for the critics out there who continuously call us names and label us with hate and division, you might want to think about why are 4 provinces thinking about leaving the Confederacy? Because your government, the Liberal government, and the NDP have colluded with each other, along with globalists like with Brookfield, and has destroyed the country pretty much, right? These authoritarian measures of borderline communism just doesn't work in our collective, and it never will. So it's interesting to see that the NDP and liberal-minded folks are supporting the destruction of our nation with authoritarian policies that are just crippling us. So the provinces are taking a role to separate. And I would like to see in the future that all the provinces who do leave the Confederacy form a new republic so that we can have our state heads at a federal forum rather than a ballooned, overstaffed federal government that is basically like watching a soap opera on CPAC, right? So let's call it for what it is. Now, that's the end of my midday update, and we are looking forward to improving this midday update and bringing it on a daily basis with information that you can stay informed. And this will help us shape the news of our great province. Now, if you have a story or if you have something that you would like to contribute to Alberta Radio in the midday newscast, please email me at jason@albertaradio.ca. Thank you very much. This is Saturday, January 3rd, 2026. This is Alberta Radio, and I'm your host, Jason LaFace.